5-Minute Habits for Healthy Living. This week's habit is prepare your own food. Hello, this is Dr. Brian Morris, and welcome to 5-Minute Habits for Healthy Living, where you will learn the tools to practice a healthy lifestyle 5 minutes at a time. I've been practicing internal medicine for 20 years. I went to medical school at Johns Hopkins, I trained at Yale, and I previously held a teaching position at Harvard Medical School. I currently practice medicine and hold a teaching appointment at UCLA Medical School here in Los Angeles, where I teach these tools and these strategies to medical students, house staff, doctors, and of course, to my patients. Before we get to this week's habit, I'd like to remind you that the information contained in this podcast and at 5minutemd.com is intended solely for educational purposes and should not be used to diagnose, treat, or prevent any health condition or illness. This information may not apply to a specific health situation and is not a substitute for medical care by a qualified, licensed, board-certified healthcare professional. Please consult with your healthcare provider before implementing any of the ideas in this podcast or making any changes in your healthcare regimen. Okay, this habit is one that I've been dreading. I know that this will upset some folks, especially restaurant owners. However, the truth is that we tend to eat healthier meals when we prepare the food ourselves rather than going to a restaurant or getting takeout. According to the National Restaurant Association, about half of every food dollar spent in the United States is now spent in restaurants. This has doubled in the last 50 years. These statistics shock me every time I read them. Why is this concerning? Numerous studies have shown that we eat fewer calories, fewer fat grams, and less sodium when we prepare food ourselves than when we eat the food prepared by someone else in a restaurant. When we eat a meal prepared by someone else, we are much less likely to get a healthy meal. The calories, the sodium, the saturated fat, the trans fat, the sugar content will likely be much greater in a restaurant than it is if we prepare our food at home. Now, this is not to say that we should never go to restaurants, but I am saying that it's important to recognize that on average, a meal prepared at home tends to be healthier than a meal prepared at a restaurant. The fiber content and the healthy fat contents are less likely to be where they should be when we eat at a restaurant. And we are more likely to eat larger portions, have more alcohol, and choose empty calories over nutrient-dense calories that are rich in good nutrition. Do we really know how the food was prepared? Do we know how much butter or excess oils they use to make the food taste better? Do we know how much salt they added to the food? The answers to these questions are more likely not to be in our favor. And remember that there are studies showing that the larger your plate, the more calories we'll eat with a meal. Isn't that interesting? When we eat on larger plates, we tend to eat more food. And when we eat on smaller plates, we tend to eat less food. Some of these studies were performed at Cornell University, and they made it clear that there are some strategies that we can use at home to make it easier to eat smaller portions and healthier foods. One of those tools is to use smaller plates, smaller forks, and smaller glasses. And by doing that, it turns out that it's easier to keep our portions under control. Have you seen the sizes of plates at some restaurants nowadays? Although restaurants are wonderful for special meals, special occasions, things like that, try to prepare your meals at home as often as possible. When you prepare your own meals, you know what ingredients have been used. You know if the ingredients are high quality or cheap processed alternatives. You know if butter or unhealthy oils have been added. You are in control of what's added and what's not added. Prepare as much of your food at home as humanly possible. None of us are perfect, so most of us will have occasional meals at restaurants. So what are we to do then? What are we to do when we do go to restaurants? How do we limit the damage? How do we make sure that we get the best possible meal at restaurants? Here are some of my favorite strategies for eating at restaurants. Number 1, order only a few dishes to start and then reassess how you feel after that. So if you're at a restaurant with 3 or 4 other people, maybe order 2 dishes for the table and everyone can share the food. And then once you finish those 2 dishes, see how the table feels. It may be that that's sufficient food, and if you need more food after that, then you can always order more food. At least some of the time, you may decide not to order any more food, or you may end up ordering less than you had originally thought you wanted. Number 2, split dishes at restaurants when possible. This is particularly effective when you're at the restaurant with your spouse, but try to split dishes when possible rather than ordering too much food. Number 3, bring chopsticks to the restaurant. Studies have shown that people do a better job of controlling portion sizes when we eat with chopsticks. I know this sounds a little funny, but there are several studies showing that people are better able to control portion sizes when we eat with chopsticks. Number 4, don't go to a restaurant hungry. Eat a low-calorie, nutrient-dense food like a piece of fruit about 20 minutes before you go to a restaurant. That will help to reduce your appetite and reduce your hunger and make it easier for you to make good choices at the restaurant. Number 5, tell the waiter or waitress to bring only half of the food to the table and to put the other half in a doggy bag before it even gets to the table. This is a good strategy to help keep the portion sizes reduced so that we only see half of each entree at the table. Number 6, have a glass of water before you eat anything. Having a glass of water before meals has been shown to reduce how many calories we eat with that meal. So make it a habit to have a glass of water before you begin your meal at the restaurant. Number 7, make it a rule that you will not have any bread or any rice or any chips or any pasta with meals at restaurants. These types of foods tend to be empty calories and add little nutritional value. Empty calories are calories that don't fill us up and are largely devoid of significant nutritional value. So try to avoid bread, rice, chips, French fries, pasta, those simple carbohydrates that add little nutritional value. Number 8, request all sauces on the side and then dip your food sparingly in them. And of course, request low-calorie sauces and low-calorie dressings. Asking for low-calorie options makes more sense usually than asking for low-fat options because many low-fat options have added sugar that make them high-calorie. So the key message here is to request all sauces and dressings on the side. That way we are in control and we can use those sparingly. And number 9, pre-plan your visit to a restaurant. Check the menu before you get there so you have time to figure out the healthiest options. Before you even get to the restaurant, pre-plan your visit so you know exactly what the healthy options are and you can plan the meal to make sure that you get the healthiest possible meal. If the menu is not posted online, stop by the restaurant or call the restaurant in advance to review the menu. Most restaurants will happily review the various dishes with you on the phone. And nowadays, most restaurants have an online presence, so you can review the menu online before you even get there. If you follow these principles, you should succeed in minimizing the damage from restaurant food. That being said, it's still best to prepare most of your meals at home whenever possible. Try to reduce how often you eat at restaurants. I know restaurants can be fun, and it's okay to go there occasionally, but try to prepare most of your foods at home and eat most of your meals at home. There are so many studies now showing that the more often we eat at home, the healthier we are because we tend to get healthier quality food. This isn't as hard as it sounds, and many of us enjoy cooking our meals at home. Make cooking a family activity. Also, try cooking your favorite dishes over the weekend, and then you can store them for good home-cooked meals throughout the week. And make it fun. Make preparing your food at home a fun family experience. Cooking can be fun, so make it a joyful time. Let's keep the dialogue going. Let me know what you think of this week's Habit for Healthy Living. Post your comments and your experiences on the 5 Minute MD Facebook page. Follow us on Twitter at Brian Morris MD and visit us anytime on our website, 5minutemd.com. Let your friends and your family and your colleagues know about this podcast, and make sure that you are subscribed on iTunes. When you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, you will receive new podcast episodes as soon as they are posted. And if you're finding the information on this podcast helpful, we would really appreciate it if you would take a moment and stop by iTunes and leave us a review. Thank you so much for listening, and remember to make today count. I will see you at the next 5.